coaching session, which sounds good. Only the two of you guys have showed up so far. So I know that you know some folks, but not everybody. Lynn and Michelle, can you just introduce yourselves and say, you know, who your coaches are, who you're working with, and where you are in terms of the program?
I can start. I'm Lynn Hutchinson. I'm on week 3, and I'm working with Jenny and Katie.
Awesome. So Lynn, Sean, I think you met the very first week. He's one of our mindset coaches, and Karen is one of our other weight coaches. So there you go. And Michelle?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I am, I guess, post-program and was working with Jenny and Katie as well, and now communicating with Katie primarily through the 8 app, Food Trip.
Great. Yeah. Yes, so you are in our Momentum program. Perfect. So I was sharing with Katie that I'm wondering if I'm going to have some Facebook issues because it just gave me a whole bunch of technical issues when I tried to get into. So hang tight here. And anybody else want to say anything or introduce yourself or?
Forgive me,
I do this.
Catching up on a few texts that came in on my session that I just ended. So I'm listening and just taking a quick look to be sure there's no crisis.
Okay.
So I'd like to ask Michelle a couple of questions. You've been post program. Tell me about your journey and what it was like for your Wholist journey.
I feel like I'm still in the middle of it. It doesn't really feel like I'm post-program. I think I still have a lot of questions and a lot of work to do. So I feel like we've sort of just scratched the surface.
What do you feel were things that you learned from your initial 3 months?
Gosh, I wasn't prepared to answer all these questions. A lot. I feel like I definitely have just a better awareness of myself and why I'm making the decisions that I'm making surrounding food. I also feel like I have, you know, a lot more grace for myself, and then really just have a whole new, better understanding of the science behind all of it too, which really enjoyed learning more about, and feel like that's part of what I have a lot of questions about too.
Good. Well, it's ongoing, just so you know. Just because 3 months ends doesn't mean your learning ends. So I'm happy to hear that you're still very involved and very eager to keep learning. I find you just consciously, I call it consciously competent. Mm-hmm. I'm aware and I'm doing pretty well, but I'm not sure it's like totally natural yet. So that's okay. That's part of mindfulness too. So that's good. It's neat that you're here.
Thank you. Yes, and Lauren just popped in, so she can introduce herself when she comes back. And Lauren, Jenny, you probably remember more than me, but what week is she in? 5-ish? 5?
I have to dig it out.
Yeah. Well, she'll let us know when she comes back.
You know, I can see it pretty quickly here in my phone.
And Lauren's working with Lisa, I think. Hi, Lauren. How are you? You're muted.
Yep, sorry. Hey, my kids are crazy. Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. I locked my door so they can't come in this time.
Yeah.
I did a live the other night for the public group, and they both stood right behind me and ate like the loudest rice cakes I've ever heard in my whole life. And I was like, oh my God, this is real life. And then I had another live where my dogs knocked the computer over, and I thought I shut it off and it didn't actually shut off. And it's been interesting the last 6 weeks.
Yeah, I get it.
So we are, if Katie, do you mind just checking Facebook? I think that it's live. Will you just make sure that that you see it? Because it says preparing for me.
Lauren started on April 13th. Heather just said, how far in is Lauren? So you're at the end of your 4th week or beginning of your 5th week, and Lisa is her other coach.
Awesome. Great. Cool. So, we've, Lynn and Lauren, you've been here before. I think, Michelle, I don't know if you've been in a group call yet, but, this is we're just here for you. So, the coaches are going to be here for as long as they can, sometimes have to hop off for kids and other calls and things like that. But if you, we're just here to answer any questions that you have. It's just an opportunity for you guys to ask, questions of people that you don't always work with and take advantage of us. So good. Thank you, Katie.
You're welcome.
So who wants to start with maybe a couple wins? Anything going really well right now?
Lauren, you are too having a win. Don't give that face. You're having a win because you made a clear statement, and things are happening. I just read your text. So you made a clear statement, and things are happening, and it's uncomfortable, and it's not happening the way you want, maybe. But stand up for your win if you want to.
Yeah, and if you don't want to share, you don't have to. But I'm looking forward to hearing about it offline if you don't want to share here. But
Yeah.
And so anybody have something that's been easier than you thought this week, or that you overcame a challenge, either scale or non-scale?
I want to know how Mother's Day went for y'all.
It was lovely. I didn't do any work, and I took a walk and a bath and a nap. So
Nice.
yeah.
I check a lot of the 8 app. I've got a lot of, because I do the group coaching, so I've got probably 30 meals coming into my day every few hours. And I saw lots of beautiful Mother's Day brunches, and I thought they were choosing pretty well. Some maybe not so well, but it was all part of the experience. Did any of you have a win there with Mother's Day?
My husband made me a beautiful meal, and it basically was 100% on my plan. So
Amazing. He's trainable, huh?
You know,
Mine was too.
that's fantastic.
Hi, Aria.
I know.
Everybody,
Kathy
sorry I'm
was
late.
preparing. Oh, no problem.
Right.
Kathy was preparing for getting drowned in delicious food as being honored as a mother, but she even piled her plate full of everything and texted me. I didn't even eat half of it. I was full. So good job, Kathy.
thanks.
I have to introduce you to Catherine. This is Catherine. She used to be Kathy, but now she's Catherine because it's more feminine and it reflects her empowered feminine state. Did I get that right, Catherine?
You did. Thank you.
Love that name.
I used to call her Kathy, and I just took the Kathy in quotes out of my phone today.
Awesome.
Well, I'm doing that right now.
There you go. You weren't aware of that, so don't feel bad about it.
I wasn't. Yeah.
I had a client today who said that she planned for she did a joy eat. She planned for it for Mother's Day. She ate it and she felt crappy and she felt her mood change from it. And so she had a huge win because her body got it. Her body, like the lifestyle change set in. Her body said, oh, I don't like it. So I thought that was a big win.
That's awesome. I remember the first couple of times that happened to me and just being like kind of astounded that, decades of a way of eating is suddenly just not useful, was not useful to me anymore, which is a nice feeling for sure.
I can share a win.
Perfect.
It's not Mother's Day related, but it's Mother's Day weekend related. Thanks to Katie telling me about the, I always forget the name of it, but the something lime, what is it? Meal lime.
Oh, meal lime.
I actually chose a couple of meals and I used the grocery list and I went shopping and I had a glorious day on Saturday prepping food. And
Awesome.
I've got food for the week. So,
Oh, what a feeling.
That is more than a little win. That's a giant win.
Huge.
yeah, it was it's great to just know I don't have to think about it, you know.
Can you tell us a little bit, did you like actually make the meals, or did you just put them mostly together so that you just have a few things to do on that day?
I prepped most of the things I could ahead of time, and I made one of them on Saturday evening and I ate that, you know. I did it for 4, there's 2 of us in the house, but I shopped for 4 servings, so I would have plenty of leftovers. It may be too much, I'll find out. But so I prepped and had one for dinner on Saturday, and then I had everything prepped for the second one on Sunday, and so I just prepped that. It didn't take long, and so.
Awesome. Yeah, that's kind of what we do around here is we don't make it all ahead of time, but we have it almost all ready so that obstacle, that like opportunity cost of like actually doing it is smaller. Yeah, the other thing I often do is just, and we've talked about this before in other groups, but is just prepping a whole bunch of the stuff that I know that I want to eat, even if it's not an actual meal, and just like putting them in glass containers, like mostly done. And then you can just like open up the refrigerator and look at all the glass containers and choose the few, you know, choose the fat, choose the protein, choose the veggie, right? And just put them together that way. And so that it's like less time, and it's also less, like, it's just simpler, you know, like you don't have to worry about it quite so much as
like
I do.
It's like granimals. You know, anybody with kids know granimals? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
The kids' clothes that all mix and match.
Oh.
You put granimals in your fridge.
Dude, I can't even get my boys to put matching socks on, much less something like that.
My husband's shape blind, so I've actually put little embroideries inside his pants and his shirts so he knows if they're black or red, blue.
Oh, that is a really good idea. That's awesome. Who else has some wins? And if you don't feel comfortable sharing them, then we can get on to maybe some stumbles or questions or hurdles.
This isn't food related, but it's workout related. I have actually stuck to walking every single day, getting at least 10,000 steps in. And when I do, and I am up to, I can do 5 miles now. Awesome. And not be dying. Yeah, that's a huge, huge win, because my goal was at the end of this was to be able to go hiking with my kids. And I'm walking hills, so
love it.
Awesome. And I didn't go out today because it was windy and cold and rainy. And my husband came home and said, and we'd had a talk because he was complaining about not being able to work out. And I said, you've got a gym in the garage and you used to ref, so you can go run. I had you in my head there. And he came home and he goes, I'm going out to the garage. And I said, oh man, I've not gone and walked. So I went out and walked in the rain, in the wind.
Wow.
So I did 3 miles.
Love it.
Way to go. Yeah. I walked in the wind and the snow this morning. So I was right there with you, Catherine.
Yeah. I'd rather walk in snow than rain, to be perfectly honest. But I'm glad it's not snowing here.
I know it's been a wacky weather season, I think, for a lot of people. We're warm and toasty here in Idaho, but my parents are getting snow as well in Pennsylvania, so crazy.
They're calling for 28 again tomorrow, so who knows, we could get that snow.
Yeah.
And where are you?
West Virginia.
Okay. East Coast.
So in the Panhandle, so in the tip by Maryland and Virginia and Pennsylvania, we're just minutes away from everything.
Cool. So who wants to work through some things today with us? You have a neuro coach, you've got a hypnotherapist, and you've got Katie and I and Karen. So what?
I came to an interesting realization with Jenny and Karen last week that I have this 30-day thing in my head that every other weight loss challenge, clean eating challenge, whatever, has been for 30 days. And I was coming up on my 30 days last week, and I was thinking about this and thinking about it. And I got really discouraged because I was thinking like, God, this is the rest of my life. And I know I have to make this change. And I'm really, it's so long, you know, it's beyond the 30 days and it's going to keep going. And, coincided with my birthday, which is always a, you know, a self-reflective moment for me. But what Karen and I talked about briefly over the weekend was that I think every 30 days, I'm going to have this sort of reset, recommitment, break it up into smaller chunks and try to keep going that way. So I'm going to keep that in mind as I approach the second 30 days and beyond. And I think that's just how I have to do this.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I had a goal setting webinar, maybe it was in January, and one of the folks that I had on there with me, she calls them like big, hairy, audacious goals, like having to create that like really big goal, but then having to break it into more kind of doable steps. And I think that's exactly what you're talking about. And even if it means that you know, write it out and like write what that really big goal is, and then like physically break it into smaller goals. Like we're not trying to change everything overnight, right? And so 30 days from now is going to look different than it does right now, and you can spend that time to revise what those goals are, right? So cool, good, happy birthday.
Ariane.
Yeah.
So I just finished a 30-day yoga challenge. Karen knows that it was really a 70-day yoga challenge for me because I broke each day. It was pretty stronger than I usually do, and I broke each day into whatever I had, 10 minutes up to sometimes 40 minutes. So I just finished it, and I started a new 30-day program today. And so I just wanted to say that my name is Jenny Harps. I'm pleased to meet you. I will be your mindset coach for your 30-day program that's starting, and I was just looking, your 30-day program that's starting, well, gosh, it just started a few days ago. I'm sorry, I hadn't introduced myself yet. And your other coach is here, it's Karen Mangum, and she'll be guiding you through this 30-day challenge.
Does it seem more shiny that way?
I don't know. I'm going to have to play some head games.
I didn't BS you well enough, sorry. Oh well.
How was your birthday, Ariane? Did you find that? Yeah, good.
It was great. I had a joy eat, which got a little bit fuzzy. And that's when I reconnected with Karen over the weekend and said, I'm here. I'm saying it. I'm writing it down. You know, it's all out of the house. It was, you know, kind of almost spilled into Mother's Day. My birthday and Mother's Day are always close together, but it's good. I'm good now.
Good.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, you know, I think those kind of learnings are always going to happen. So we have, you know, one of our alumni who's had really, really great success, and she's been struggling the last few weeks because of the anxiety around, you know, being a physician in the current state. And she realized as well that she was getting close to the number of weight that she has never lost more than, and that she was suffering with a lot of self-doubt about whether anything was going to actually happen, that she was actually going to be able to stick with it. And we did a large amount of work around that in the last week or so, and thinks she's clearing, you know, doubts from when she was 16 years old and coming back to that. And so I think it's always going to be work. It's not like we're just going to fix it one day and it's going to be fine. It just means that you got to realize how to recognize when it's happening and how to ask for help and how to do the work to find the next step. So I just wanted to share that. She's back on track and feeling awesome and just surpassed that number. So.
And I just got a little chubby recently and started an Ayurvedic cleanse because I work with an Ayurvedic practitioner for my health. And I just started a cleanse today. And God, it was a relief to put that food on my plate today instead of kind of those habits that were creeping in. So it's kind of a relief from, I resist it, but it can be kind of a relief to just go, oh, okay, I'm going to be feeling better again.
Yeah. Oh, Karen, you're on mute. Sorry.
Thought I muted. Sorry.
There you go.
Well, I think once you become a mindful eater, though, it sticks with you. And it's difficult not to become a mindful eater because you have to consciously not be mindful. And you're very aware that you're not being mindful because you've learned mindfulness. So this sticks with you forever if you choose for it to be. And so the ups and the downs are very much a part. I call it the pendulum swinging. And the goal really is to become a smaller little pendulum. We're not making these big swings every night, going, way off eating for a long time, and then, okay, I'm back on eating for a short. It's never going to stay the same. A pendulum never actually comes to a stillness, but there's always just a little bit, we change the arc to a little bit smaller. So the little pleasure-y, but then we're back to where we want to be and we kind of stay there. I just think that that's normal eating, and that's developing a good, healthy relationship with eating is, recognizing that there's going to be birthdays, going to be Mother's Day, there's going to be a little chocolate now and then. If you feel like you can eat it and it doesn't set you off into some slippery slope, I think that's actually going to be, rather than feeling like, oh, I'm dreading this, I know this is coming, that's not healthy in my opinion. And I like the idea of enjoying food that makes you feel good. And for the most part, that is protein, vegetables, healthy fats, of course. And a little bite of a treat is a nice thing to do once in a while, unless it really sets you off. I think that that's okay. We kind of sound like we're, like we're fearing it. We're fearing the treats, the sweets.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why we're so kind of strict at the beginning is because, we're trying to get through food addiction, and for a lot of us, sugar addiction, and you have to break that like it's an addiction. It doesn't mean that everyone's going to be addicted like an alcoholic, though, right? And that once you get to the weight that you want to be, then you figure out what your new plan is, right? That's why we're revising protocols every 3 weeks, is because things are different. And if you do the mindset work and you do that introspective work, it's going to be easier for you to stay on track when you can make those decisions at a time where your body is to where you want it to be.
Yeah.
I actually find that for myself hard to believe that I could ever get to a place of having a bite or a small amount of something and not sliding down the rabbit hole with it. I really feel my brain I've wired my brain through my behavior to just get that hit in my brain, and then I'm mainlining.
Yeah. I think and you are probably correct, Lynn, from our conversation. But not, everybody's dealing with a slightly different thing. And so for you might have to just absolutely not do it. The woman that I was just talking about, she also is like, I just can't do it. It's just, to her, it is like the alcohol for the alcoholic.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine.
Go, whoever that was, go.
It was me, sorry. A friend of mine, I've been telling her about my journey and what I'm doing. And she told me the mantra she says every time she looks at something that she knows in her gut she shouldn't be eating. And it really hit home for me. She tells herself, I already know what it tastes like. I like what it tastes like. my body knows what it tastes like, and my body remembers it. And your body does, it shows that you ate it. And so, you know, do I want my body to remember that I ate this? And that's, you know, kind of helped me. Okay, I do know what it tastes like. I do know I enjoyed it. And it's not something I want on my body. So it's helped me several times when I've wanted to reach for something that I shouldn't.
And even something Jenny said earlier about how it made that person feel when they ate it. And you remember that too.
I think that person might be on the call.
Okay.
A joy eat that then felt yucky.
Yeah.
Anybody want to talk out loud about that?
I had that. That's happened the last 2 times. I've only had 2 joy eats, and I'm in week 10. One was for my daughter's birthday, and then one was yesterday. There was a certain kind of cake I had thought that I wanted for a while. So I just had a smaller piece, and I felt so sick after, and then I just could feel my attitude slipping and instantly switching into the negativity. But then when I was thinking about it later afterwards, I was like, well, it was a good lesson to learn. I don't crave that anymore. And I understand, and I could see point blank what the sugar was doing to my body and my attitude. And so I'm thankful that I did it and learned that now. And it, I think, has removed most of those cravings for me.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Thanks for sharing that. Do you think, Alicia, do you think that the negativity was you feeling badly that you chose to have it, or do you think it was the actual like sugar?
I did a lot of self-talk, like it seems like a big deal. It was kind of for me, but I did a lot of self-talk about not feeling guilty. It was something Katie and I had talked about, I think like 2 weeks out that I had planned it. And so I tried to remove the guilt. I think the negative feelings was as a result from the sugar is what it seemed to me.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I think Katie speaks very well about removing shame from food. And I know Karen does as well. I think it's important that we realize that it doesn't control our emotions, right? It's like that bad relationship that you got to break up with sometimes and not let them control your emotions.
Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest part for me that's left is that brought me joy, temporary joy for so long, is finding where am I really supposed to put that healthy joy? Where is that supposed to come from? And I'm learning to have it come from my surroundings, but that immediate fix is hard for me to not have anymore. So online shopping, I haven't been terrible, but that has been a temporary sub. So I'm trying to like weed myself and become more aware of why I'm choosing to make those purchases and things.
Yeah, for sure. Anybody else have success in finding something else to replace that with in the moment? For me, I find that just like, again, kind of trying to delay action just gives you some space between the choice that you are making and the moment, because you're always going to make a better choice ahead of time. Just like you planned that joy eat for 2 weeks out, right? Like that was great. You didn't go just have it at that moment, but sometimes that kind of delay can be just as simple as a minute or 2 of deep breathing and bringing your, as Jenny says, your frequency down into your body instead of being up here in your brain. And then lets you realize, what does my body really want, right? Like Catherine's mantra is awesome. It's like, what does my body want? Like, what is it going to bring me? I already know what that tastes like. But I know even more importantly, what my bigger goals are and how I want my brain to feel and how I want my body to feel. So I just use a couple minutes, sometimes even not even that long, of just breathing. And that's the point of that box breath challenge that I put into the Facebook group today. And then I did another live in the Curate Your Health with another couple other breathing exercises. I just did that right before we came in, so you can go check that out too. That's helpful.
So another thing about reaching for something sweet, and I think Lynn, this might speak to you, but it might speak to others. Kathy, Coach Kathy, does she ever show up on these? Who is
No.
it who doesn't show up? It's Lisa does sometimes, but Coach Kathy doesn't, right?
Yeah, Kathy's not much of a social media fan.
I don't blame her. Kathy sent to Tina, I think, and me and Heather a book called I just had it up here, Untamed. And I think a lot of what we're doing when we're reaching for sweets is that we're trying to dull the wild, beautiful selkie. That's, if anybody knows what a selkie is. Does anybody know what a selkie is?
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
A selkie. Anybody want to explain? Lynn, you want to explain what a selkie is?
Well, a selkie is a kind of a magical creature. It's a seal, actually, but there's a wonderful story about the selkie's skin was stolen by a man and hid it, and when the selkie lost its skin, it became a woman and had to live on the earth. And she was not a happy camper, and she eventually found her skin, long story short, and got to return to the wild. And I resonate with that story very much.
So I think when we're not living our wild true self, when we're dulling down according to what society has taught us without us even realizing it, that reaching for food is one of the big ways that we dull down. We get a little excitement, a little good feeling, but it's nothing like the wild animal we really are inside. Some of us are softer wild animals. Some of us are like that panther on my wall over there. But when we're not living our wild true self, that's when we will do all kinds of things, have a sex addiction, eat food we don't mean to, use drugs, because we're not really being who we are. So just take a look at that. And you might want to listen to, I got on Audible the book Untamed, thanks to Kathy. It's pretty challengingly beautiful. It's beautiful to listen to. And it will challenge. You'll go, oh, God, I'm not really being true.
I just wanted
think a
to.
lot of times. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Heather.
No, go ahead, Ritu. How are you?
Oh, that's Katie. I think
Katie.
Ritu's phone just had some noise on it.
Got it.
So I just wanted to say, I think that I'm listening to Untamed too. I definitely recommend the Audible book. But I think that she talks a lot about how this affects women, but she also talks about the bigger picture in the idea that that as kids we're taught that happy is the emotion that is our goal. And so anything that's not happy, or all the typically positive emotions should be avoided. And so when we have those feelings, we try to make them go away. A lot of times you try to fix it by actually correcting the problem to fix that discomfort, but you also try to dull it if you can't figure out a good fix for it. If you can't figure out how to not be uncomfortable in some emotion, well, we deviate away from that emotion or remove it temporarily by seeking things that are dopamine releasing, that are really pleasurable, or at least more pleasurable than what we're experiencing at the time. And so I think the idea that feelings are meant to be felt, and it's okay that they're not always positive, and it's okay to just be in that moment with that uncomfortable feeling, whatever it is, if it's sadness or frustration or fear, and just know that that's part of the human experience, to live those emotions and not shy away from them and not try to buffer them. And so I love what Glennon Doyle says for that reason, that it's just like, it's like, these are feelings that are meant to be felt, and it's okay, and we don't have to hide from them.
And I'm going to add to that, Katie, I always like to stand up. So here is the solar plexus. The stomach is right here on the left side. Solar, fire, it's fire. It's the seat of anger. And so what are we doing when we're eating? I think often we're shoving down anger. And anger is it's a powerful force for change. We're not angry for no reason. But women aren't supposed to be angry. Like Heather went through this thing of just being direct at work, and she got written up and had to go to 6 meetings during COVID, or maybe more. If a man had been direct like that, no write-up, no meetings. So we women are angry for good reason. It's my opinion. And we better let that force help us make change. Not by just throwing the anger at somebody, but let it help us make change, and we won't have to shove it down anymore. There.
I like that. Thank you. I want to invite Tina on because she was texting me with a specific question while we were on the call. So I told her to come on and talk about it. So hi, love. How are you?
Hey.
Good.
Crazy
So
day.
yeah. So you had a question specifically about how you're supposed to be recognizing when you're hungry, when you're getting to that -4. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. Today was my longest fast that I've done, and I guess for some reason I never felt like phases of being hungry. I guess that's been easier when I wasn't fasting as long, and so like I went straight, sorry about that, I went straight to like, I don't know, -10, or I've never felt that before. It was like chest pain and nausea and headache and flushing. And so I guess I just didn't know if anybody had any, like, how to, when you've never been in touch with hunger before, how to recognize that earlier so I didn't get in that situation again.
Do you think, looking back on it now about how you were feeling throughout the day, that there's anything you can identify that you didn't at the time that was halfway? Because I don't think we'll all be able to give you our personal opinions, right, on what we feel, but it's going to be different for everybody.
I mean, I think that probably I was having some of the pressury nausea feeling a little bit before, while I was trying to push through and get through patients. So I probably could have caught it a little bit earlier in hindsight. But I didn't, but I was super crazy, busy, stressed today too. So I don't know that I was really in tune with myself or paying attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is important to recognize, because that's not going to change, right? So we've got to find a way that you can still get into your body and recognize. So for me, I find so I'm on like 26-hour fast right now, and mostly just because I was going to do 24 and then I got distracted and now here I am. But I can tell you that, like, for me, I have I get distracted easier, is I think the first thing that I notice. Is that obviously have a pretty good attention span for work. And I will find that around my 2 periods of time, my 2 time periods in a longer fast that I find it difficult is hour 16 and hour 20. I'm kind of fine all the other times, but as soon as I recognize that I'm sort of like, checking Facebook instead of doing what I was supposed to be doing, or losing track of a task, then that's my way of being like, okay, now I need to like check in with myself and take some breaths and think about my body instead of being stuck in my brain. But and finding those patterns for you will be a little bit different. You might do a couple more of these and realize that like hour, 12 and hour 18 are hard. And so when you recognize that, it becomes not so hard because you realize that that's just the pattern and it's going to be fine after that. But you also can try to recognize what your body's feeling with that. Is that helpful at all?
Yeah.
Tina,
Yeah.
can I ask if you had hydrated well during this period of time?
Yeah, that's probably one of the best things. I'm really pretty good at that at work.
Okay.
Because so I did I'm not sure that when because I broke my fast at lunch at about 1, I'm not sure I ate enough. So I don't know if maybe that's why I felt so bad.
So you felt this after you fasted?
Because
you ate and then felt
yeah,
awful?
that's the weird piece.
Oh.
So I broke my 20-hour fast at 1 and then started feeling bad around 6. So that was weird to me. I've never had that happen. I didn't feel bad while fasting.
Interesting.
Okay, I misunderstood that too.
Sorry.
I think.
Yeah.
What did you eat for lunch?
Eggs and some chicken and avocado and a little bit of fruit and water.
Yeah.
Missing bulk in vegetables, is
Vegetables,
that a possibility, coaches?
I mean, I would have thought that the protein and the fat and that would be enough.
Yeah, would be enough. I agree. So not sure what was happening there. That's interesting reaction.
Do you think it was hunger or was there something else going on?
I mean, today was a really, really stressful day. Mentally I didn't feel panicked, but I guess it's always possible that I was having a physical response and not, like I said, I was super, super busy. So I guess that is possible that it was actually a physical response to like more like just cortisol or anxiety, as opposed to a hunger response. I just assumed because of the timing it was hunger.
Yeah, it may not have been. Because that meal seems like it should be enough, and it's only 5 hours, and you just did 20, right? So,
right.
Yeah, I would just think about that a little bit. How does anyone else describe what -4 out of feels like eating?
I have the same problem she does identifying that. I tend to just kind of wait till I get hungry and then I realize I'm hangry instead of just hungry. So I can relate to what she's saying is how do you figure out if you're really hungry or just, I don't even notice it. Sometimes like you say you're fasting and you don't even notice it. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh God, I've got to eat right now. So.
But
that happened to me. Oh, go ahead.
I don't even know if that feeling is hunger sometimes though. It's like, cause you can get past that most of the time too. It is a feeling of some kind, but it may not be hunger. I've said this in these groups before, but I don't know who was here, but like, I think about those switches and feelings of sensations, I should say, not feelings, sensations in your body of like, maybe just how my body's shifting to use different types of energy, right? Like maybe those 16-hour and that 20-hour, like maybe that's my glycogen shift and my fat shift, right? And I'm never going to know that, but that's kind of what I think based on several years of experimenting with myself. And so I just think about that too. It's like maybe it's your body just shifting to try to do something else to keep you moving and with a good steady supply of energy.
Yeah,
Alicia,
I agree.
sorry.
Oh, you're fine. I had that happen today. I did a 24-hour and I usually handled them pretty well. But today, like right before when it was time for me to cook dinner, I just felt my mood completely shift. And I just felt like, I use the term crash, like, I just felt like I lost all energy. But I've never had an issue a couple hours after fasting. I always have really bad diarrhea after eating after a fast, but nothing like no nausea with that.
Interesting. Hi, Janice.
Hi.
Hi, Jen.
Welcome. It's nice to see you.
It
Thanks
sounds
for
like
joining us.
fasting is the topic today. I fasted today too, and I at 4 o'clock I had to go for a handful of nuts.
Yeah.
But I like that tip about I just wrote it down about that it might be a shift. I don't know. I just
Janice,
felt like I wasn't going to make it till dinner, so I needed a little something.
Janice, I'd love for you, just because you're near the end of your 12 weeks, and I would love, Janice discovered a pattern of fasting that has been very, very effective for her. She loves scheduled routines, and it works really well for her. Do you mind sharing that, Janice?
Sure. I just, every other day, I do a 24-hour fast from dinner to dinner. And I have the keto coffee in the morning, which has been working really well for me. And I don't know how many weeks I've been doing it, Karen, but it's been for a long time. And I've only had two times when I've reached for the nuts prior to the dinner hour. Yeah.
And which is hardly a crime. So.
And can you, before you came on, Janice, we were sharing wins. Can you tell us, because you are getting near the end, kind of what you think your biggest wins have been?
I've lost 28 pounds, and I feel great. And I think the biggest thing is that I feel like I have the information and the knowledge that I need to help me continue. And it's definitely a lifestyle change for me. It hasn't felt like a diet, and I've never felt deprived, and it just feels like a new way that I'm eating. And so that feels totally different than any other diet I've ever done before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have kids home this weekend. What have they noticed about you that's different?
Well, Charlotte's been home with me. And Madeline just drove home from LA, so she's pretty proud of me. And we were actually looking through some pictures last night, and Charlotte found a picture of me from Berlin, which was right before I started. And she said, "Holy cow, Mom." Because she sees me every day, so I think when they see me every day, it's not as noticeable. And she looked at the picture and she was amazed. She's like, "Wow."
Awesome.
Yeah. So,
and you've also done a lot of work with Jenny as well. I know you've had some wins there as well.
Yes.
Do you mind sharing?
No, I've been, I'm like, I don't know, kind of a hoarder, a little bit of a hoarder. Jenny asked permission to use that word. I'm not a total hoarder, because I'm willing to get rid of the stuff, but it's just really, really, really hard for me.
Excuse me, it used to be, and you are not a hoarder. Right. In the past, you've had a tendency to hang on to things.
Yes, this is true. This is true. So we filled a whole entire large dumpster, and I'm still working at it. And I gave away 12 bags of clothes, 12 big, huge garbage bags of clothes, lots of which are perfectly good clothes, but they are too big for me now. So that was awesome. So
clearing your mind and your physical space. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I've been working out with a personal trainer, so that's helped too. So everything, it's all, like you said, it's a whole package. It's the whole me. And I just feel mentally, physically, everything feel better.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Very pleased with all of the hard work that you've done. And
thank you.
Janice.
Me too. And she's brought back some of her wild self by recognizing that being inside pisses off a part of her. And she really likes to be outside, so she's being outside and working out outside and stuff.
That's right.
It's awesome. Good for you.
Yeah.
Well, and Janice, you're a second grade teacher, right?
I am.
I just want to say that I've always appreciated teachers, but teaching my second grader right now is not awesome.
Yeah.
So appreciate you.
I'm sure. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. We of course appreciate you. But yeah. It's hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my second grader was with his teacher today, and she was like breastfeeding a child
Oh, wow.
while she was trying to talk to them. So I was like, man, everybody's got a lot going on.
That's hysterical.
Yeah. So we have a couple minutes left. Who else has anything that they want to work through with us while we're here? Yep.
Do you know, while they're thinking, I feel like your question there wasn't an answer for it here, perhaps. Is Kathy aware that happened?
Well, I sent it to you guys on the group text, so maybe she'll respond after she finishes them.
Okay, maybe
that message was to that. Okay.
So you alerted her. Good. Because I don't want you to be hanging like, well, we don't know. I want to know that Kathy's on it with you.
Yeah, Kathy is astoundingly good at fasting and using her fat adapted state for her endurance. And so I'm sure that she has specific thoughts about that. She runs like 50 miles in a row. It's insane.
Do some people have a hard digestive time coming off of a fast? I heard,
Alicia.
Alicia saying, yeah, I've heard this before after like a 5-6 day fast from somebody, but is that common? And what do you do with it? I'm curious.
I think everybody's a little bit different. I mean, I don't notice anything about me, and I can't really remember when I was first doing this a few years ago about whether I felt any of that. But I do hear, people get fuller faster, feel more uncomfortable eating that first meal. I haven't heard too much about diarrhea, but that certainly would make sense that your body's sort of like releasing a little bit. What about you, Karen?
I'm not exactly sure what it is. After fasting, I mean, your blood sugar is, it's still pretty steady. I'm not sure exactly what it might be. I've been fasting for a long, long time myself, and I actually don't have that kind of reaction after fasting. But if I'm not hydrated, I will get lightheaded and I will get headaches, and that can happen. I realize, I just haven't had any water. I need to get some fluid in me. That's important. So, and I agree, Tina, your meal was right on. It had all the components that we asked you to. Had enough carbohydrates, actually, in a little bit of fruit. That I was thinking that might be an issue. So you did that well. I think that's something to explore there.
I'm struggling figuring out.
And I can make sure that.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I can make sure, and it was a crazy day, so I can make sure next time I come off a fast and maybe not even just do my normal water, but push my water, because it may be that I was dehydrated with my normal water. Does that make sense? I mean, like maybe my normal water wasn't enough with me being fasting.
Right. Because oftentimes we don't know that we are dehydrated until we get nauseous. And nausea, I've had some serious dehydration nausea from actually too much running and not enough drinking. And that I did vomit, and I was so sick. And I thought, what in the world? And it was all dehydration. I know it. So that has been a problem over the years as I've been a big runner, but and not getting enough fluid in me.
And I was glad to hear Alicia say that, because I actually had today, and I was like, where did that come from? Because it was literally like it was a dumping basically after eating. So I've never experienced. I've done fasts before and never had that, but I did them differently than with you guys. So
Sean here, could I just chime in a little bit?
Yeah, of course.
On the brain science of this, Tina, it sounds to me like you might be describing a little bit of a readjustment to your serotonin and dopamine circuitry. And I struggle to use this analogy because I don't want to insult anybody, but if you think about what happens to somebody who's neuroadapted to, let's say, heroin, and then they stop using heroin, then they get that withdrawal syndrome. Comes with flushing and heart racing and, all of the, pretty much everything that you just described. And so it sometimes, I've seen this with clients and patients who are going through fasting, who are really doing it properly, which I think this program really does a good job setting you up for that, is that as you're starting to neuroadapt, you're rewiring, and you're also adapting your adrenergic system, right? So your adrenaline output, your cortisol output, all of this is going through some changes. And I think that Karen did a really great job describing this pendulum swing. I think just, you've seen what happens to, the global economy when we have this massive meltdown. In a way, that's maybe kind of what's going on with you, right? So instead of this being a pendulum swing, it's like an all over the place wackadoo kind of change to the pendulum. Like, there is no swing going on here. Maybe because you're doing some things in a way that you haven't done before. So your body's now going to be producing more beta hydroxybutyrate than normal, right? From a ketone perspective. This has a bunch of changes to the brain in terms of the way the brain inflammation is handled, and it pushes it in a really good direction. So I almost feel like what you're describing is actually a good thing, even though it was uncomfortable for you. You're not used to this. It feels kind of bad. Where are these symptoms coming from? But in a way, I might encourage you to embrace it. If those changes come again with the next time that you complete a cycle, you probably can help to settle it down with extra hydration and maybe potassium and magnesium. Karen's also a big fan of magnesium, but I feel like I'm thinking this is a good thing. And maybe if you track this as time goes on and see if you can build your own curve and your own trends out by, objectively writing it down, you might learn a thing or two about the way that your dopamine and serotonin systems are readjusting.
And it will help you experiment a little bit about your length of fasts and how you break them and how you prepare for them with Kathy, based on understanding how that's kind of what I was getting at when I was talking about my 16 and 20 hour stumbles.
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say too, Tina, had you done 24 hours before?
A long time ago, and I would not completely fast. I would do like routines. This is over probably 14 hours, and all I did was a keto coffee.
So it is helpful to just start with the 16s and just get used to having that over like even a period of a week or two. Try just doing 16s and see how that feels to you. And then maybe work into it like you did today, a 20, and then maybe a 24. It's sort of like when you prepare your body for a marathon, you don't want to go all the way. You can't do it. So you have to work in small little increments until you can work your way up to more mileage. And I think the body kind of is the same way. So that's what Wholist does. It gets you started into smaller fasting first and getting used to that feeling of hunger, what the body can adjust to. And I just love what Sean says about all this neuroscience, because I had no idea any of that was going on. And that is so cool to know that when we're fasting, there are all these great benefits and systems kicking into place that aren't there when we're normally not fasting, and that there really is great benefit, but we do have to probably work up to it. That was fascinating, Sean. Thank you.
Thanks.
Awesome.
What's the best way to break your fast when you've done the long ones?
So I usually start with something a little bit fattier, like nuts or like a bit of an avocado or something like that, and then give myself like 15-20 minutes to like just sort of start to digest that and feel that kind of satiating effect of the fat, so that then when I eat the meal, I probably don't eat as much as I would have if I was breaking it directly. And that's just I don't know what anyone else's practice is, but that's what I do.
I mean, after a fast, we do know, I mean, the stomach's a muscle, so it actually has atrophied a little bit. It's smaller in size. So when we go to eat after a fast, we actually we may fill up a little bit faster than we think. Having gone, 20, let's say 16 to 24 hours without eating, we think we deserve a lot more food than what probably our stomachs really can hold. So it's very important that you listen very carefully to your signals and not overeat, but do a Wholist meal, protein, vegetables, and fat. Keep it small at first. If you feel like you want more, go back and get more. But interestingly enough, you probably won't eat as much as you think you might.
Oh, I don't.
Right?
I'm generally not that super hungry when I do break it.
So that could be a sign your stomach's not very big. It's shrunk down a little bit. And so that's a good thing. And then just listen again, probably time to eat again in another 4 hours after that. And then you get back into your pattern, but you probably will eat less. So that's good.
Yeah, it's just important to just make sure that in between those longer fasts that you're still getting enough food, because we're trying to not calorie restrict, right? We're trying to just change when we're eating the amount that we eat so that we can fix that hormonal dysregulation. So being conscious of that is important. That's the purpose of it being intermittent fasting.
What do you consider enough food?
Well, I think that's going to be different for all of us. I mean, you just kind of see if you're eating a 2 or 3 meal day, like where do you feel like you're between a -4 and a +4, where you feel like you're
Okay,
getting
so just so that we're not hungry anymore.
Yeah.
Essentially. Okay.
It's kind of like Janice with her 24 on and 24 off. She's eating, like, she'll go dinner to dinner. She'll eat dinner and then she'll eat 3 meals the next day.
Yep.
She'll eat breakfast, lunch, dinner. That's normal for her. That gives her satiation. She gives her enough nutrition, and then she'll skip breakfast and lunch the next day.
And it's one of the reasons though that like when we're initially on the call, like you and I, and we're talking, it's like why I can't tell you exactly what we're going to do, because we don't know what's going to work for you. Because for me, like I couldn't eat 3 meals in a day anymore. Like that's just not the way that I just wouldn't be able to do. I'd feel terrible. So I generally 16 fast every day. And then for me to keep on a, with weight maintenance, I do a 24 a week, and that's what works for me now. But Janice is doing great with 3 meals in a day. Right. And so that's why we're trying to figure this out with your coaches and experimenting so that we can have a good plan for you when you're done to keep marching on, and then, coming back for advice every once in a while. Right. That's the goal, is of course to work ourselves out of a job by you having the skills that you need,
And you kind of know if you're not getting enough food, if your weight pretty much like just stops moving, like maybe your body is going into some adaptation where the BMR is slowing down because you're not getting enough food. So that's an indication too.
It's an indication for mixing something up, right? Doing something different and trying something else.
So that's what I was wondering, because I've started, I haven't hit a plateau, I guess, but my weight loss has definitely slowed down. So the last couple weeks, I think it's just like a pound or 2.
Yeah. So
right
you might want to try, Janice, doing 2 meals in between those fast days for a week or 2, and don't have any judgment on it, and don't even bother weighing yourself, and just seeing what happens and how you feel, and whether you still feel as great as you do right now, and if you can knock the scale a little bit.
Okay.
Mix it up.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question. When you're having the Fat Bomb coffee, all of you, are you using MCT oil? Are you using coconut oil, butter? What's everyone using when they're doing that? And there's a specific reason I'm asking that, but what do you use?
I think there's a lot of different formulations. I don't do that. When I coach people personally, I tell them to use that as an opportunity to get better at fasting and then to get off of it. And so I don't do it, but there's a bunch of different formulations. I'd be happy to hear what people use.
Yeah, what are you all using? And I'm asking this because when I use MCT oil, if I don't really sneak up slowly on it, I get like the runs right away. Yeah. So I'm wondering if that's any of what was going on there with going back on food. It's the MCT oil in the body or coconut oil. So
I don't do fat bombs, so.
I do like mine is a mixture of butter and coconut oil and collagen. And I've actually been doing fat bombs for 2 years because I felt like I really found that really helped my brain in the morning a lot. So, but now I used to do 2 a day. That was too much. So now I do 1 a day.
And that's not giving you a purge. Has nothing to do with that.
Yeah. I've been doing it for a while, so I doubt it, although that in a fast maybe, but I mean, I've been doing that for almost 2 years now.
Okay. It was a curiosity. Thanks.
I have to agree with Heather. I think it's too much. I think it's a lot of fat. And I was interested in Dr. Fung, so I went to his book, The Complete Book of Fasting, and he said 1 to 2 tablespoons of fat. And then he described a recipe for keto coffee, which was 2 tablespoons of MCT, 2 tablespoons of butter, 2 tablespoons of, and I thought, well, now I'm confused because, so I think just the one.
Yeah, a little bit can go a long way.
A lot can go, yeah, little can go a long way.
Janice?
Mine is, I use ghee and coconut oil and vanilla and oat milk.
Gotcha. Cool. Very good. Well, I am running off to a pre-shift nap, so I'm going to close us down. It's starting another 7 nights on this week. So I have, my goal this week is to work on my new patterns of how to prepare for a shift where I'm breathing my own CO2 and an N95 for 8 hours and not drinking any water, because it's different. I used to be, what'd you say?
Why not drinking any water?
Well, we're not like taking our masks on and off because there's always a chance of you being infecting yourself. And so we're trying not to eat or drink at work.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So
that's horrible.
And the not eating's not a problem for me.
It's the drinking.
It's the drinking water. And I've always been better at drinking water at work than I have been at home. My pattern of drinking there has been just more solidified. And so now I'm just trying to figure out, as with most of us, what new normal is. So I'm good. I'm gonna go drink a bunch of water and take a nap.
Slip a straw up under the mask and drink it.
Yeah, but even the straw, I don't know. It's just right now there's too much of a risk of, Lauren knows. we're just in it. So I know all of the docs do, but so anyway, on that note, I'm gonna go drink some water.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing this.
Good night.
Yep, take care.
Good night.
Good to see everyone.
I'll stay on if anybody needs me. You guys good? You good, Janice?
Yes. I'm trying to figure out how to end it. There we go.
Super excited for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Take
I'm
care.
excited. Thanks.
Yep,
Bye.
bye.